Welcome to Interviews from Quito. I'm Michael Fox. Today I'm joined by Francois Houtard. He's a Belgian sociologist, a Catholic priest. He's written over 50 books, and he is a member and a founder of the World Social Forum, and he's still on the International Commission for the World Social Forum. He is also a former member of the UN Commission on Economic Crisis. Francois, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure.
Francois, I want to start by talking about kind of this right-wing backlash in Latin America from the recent election of Mauricio Macri in Argentina, the recent election of the opposition in the National Assembly, which just won 2/3. Kind of this whole pushback across the region against these progressive governments. What's happening here, and what is your analysis?
Well, I suppose that there are many causes. It is not possible only to say that it is for this reason or this reason. There is a lot of reasons for that. If we begin with the international aspect, I think that the economic crisis and the problem of the price of commodities is a very, very important factor because it affected immediately all the countries of Latin America, and not only Latin America, but also the South. But especially of Latin America, and especially the progressive countries which have tried to use the money that was coming in the countries because of the higher prices of petroleum and other commodities to improve the social situation and to finance some social programs. So of course that had an immediate effect. It's one of the causes of the difficulties that the progressive governments have known. But it is not only that, of course. We know that there have been situations where corruption has been very high, like in Petrobras, etc. That has affected very much the public opinion. And people did not accept such a situation, especially after having hoped that progressive governments would be other governments than the former ones. And they see they are not so different. But I think there is also another problem. The problem is that the aim, the model of the progressive countries has been a post-neoliberal model, definitely, because they gave back more power to the state in social responsibilities and in public investment, etc. So we can say they have been post-neoliberal, but they have not been post-capitalist. And that means that they had to continue to work with the capitalist system. Of course, it is different from Venezuela to Argentina to Ecuador, but as a whole, everyone has been obliged to work with the capitalist system, still dominating especially the economic field, especially in Venezuela, for example. But instead of saying, well, we cannot do otherwise, because how can you create a non-capitalist island in a world capitalist system? Of course, we can understand that. But instead of saying that, they began to justify their capitalist policies with all kinds of arguments, trying to show that they were doing the right things. I know a little more, of course, here, Ecuador. I think that the most important factor of changing the policy in Ecuador has been the right in the government, and not only the right outside of the government. A new right, of course, a new capitalism. What Rafael Correa calls the modern capitalism. And the modern capitalism, yes, is modern, accept the struggle against poverty because it gives more basis for the market, accept formal work, labor, instead of informal labor, accept social security for the workers, and accept to pay a little more taxes if the government is assuring a certain security. So that is modern capitalism, but it remains capitalism. That means it remains a place of exploitation of labor and destruction of nature.
When you say the right within the government and not just the right outside the government, can you explain that? Because I didn't quite understand that analysis. Are you saying that they need to fight kind of against the right wing of kind of the government itself within that power in order to push more progressive policies?
Well, I mean that after a while, and that is of course much more clear in Brazil, the progressive governments are making rightist policies. In Brazil, I was in Brazil a month ago and I had a meeting with the PT, with the left wing of the PT, and they said, how long can we go along with that kind of policy, which is the comeback to the neoliberal system? You see, saying, well, our model has been almost exhausted, and now we must find new orientation, a new orientation in favor of the market. And that was very clearly expressed by Dilma, like that. She said in the discourse in the United Nations, our model is exhausted. And I think it is true. I don't say it is the fault of the progressive governments. It is essentially because of the international crisis, definitely. But the reaction, instead of saying, okay, we are facing a new situation, we have to accept some aspects of capitalism because we cannot do otherwise. No, there is a part of the government with growing power, especially here in Ecuador and in Bolivia, which accept that situation and is going forward with that kind of measures. So practically going back, not completely, to a neoliberal policy. And so I know it must be extremely difficult. I would not like to be in the government of those countries for the moment because it is extremely difficult. But we have to be clear, and we have to exercise again a critical thinking, not just justifying all what the governments are doing, but trying to be critical in order to show it is possible to do otherwise.
You mentioned Brazil, and I think this is a really interesting example. I mean, obviously you have the economic crisis, you have several things that are happening right now, but even a political crisis in which Michel Temer, the vice president, is kind of going back and forth. Maybe I'll support Dilma, maybe I won't. You have Eduardo Cunha, that's part of the governing coalition of the PMDB, who's in the lower house, who's actually the person who's launched the impeachment proceedings. What's happening there? An extremely conservative Congress. What's happening in Brazil? What's brought us to this moment?
Well, in Brazil, the problem has been, first, that the PT had to make an alliance with a party which is not a party. It is a group of caciques. And so to work with that kind of party is extremely difficult. You can expect anything from that kind of party. And so the PT has been obliged since 12 years to work with that party. That is a first problem. And that party is, of course, called center-left, center-right, but it is really a party of right and more a party of personal interest of caciques. So that is the first difficulty. The second difficulty has been the corruption of PT, because we cannot deny that that has been a very important factor. And of course that makes that the PT is very weak to answer to the situation. And the problem for the left of the PT is that they don't see any alternative. I spoke with one who has been very much associated with Dilma during many years, the first term, and he told me, I could not for a second term accept to collaborate with Dilma because her policy is a rightist policy. But otherwise, but at the same time, there is no alternative except the right. So we have to back Dilma.
Right, because that's what I was going to say, because the corruption in Brazil, it's essentially endemic. It's like, it's the way the game is played. And that's not an excuse, but that's just the way it's been forever.
Yeah. Yes, that's right, that's right. But I think that in Venezuela also we have something a little similar, because corruption has been the fruit of the petroleum rent since years. It's not a new thing, but has become also to be a kind of a part of the political culture. And to fight against that, I've seen, of course, very well, because I've been quite near to Chavez, to Hugo Chavez, that he tried really to fight against corruption, and Maduro also. But it's so difficult to reverse, you know, a problem which is not only a problem of immediate action of specific persons, but which is really a part of the culture, you know, and also because of the inequalities, social inequalities. So the political field was the only way that you could make some money to better your situation, you know. So it is very difficult, that's true. But anyway, it has some negative consequences.
Yeah. This, getting back to this point about kind of the right-wing backlash, the election of Macri, the election of the National Assembly, is your opinion, is this something that's temporary within the region, or you think this is going to be a fundamental change of direction back toward, as you've written, kind of this neoliberal past?
It's difficult to answer because to make prophecies is difficult. I think, this is just an opinion, that it is transitional, that we are facing a dialectic process and that they don't have solutions, except the solutions to be in favor of capital, and so to increase inequalities, and this will have the same results as before. It may take a certain time. Of course, if enough strength is built by them with a certain acceptance of public opinion and with the backing of the imperium, of course that can perhaps constitute a way of life of those countries for a good period of time, no? But I hope not.
Well, and this is, it's fascinating and it's really scary because we're already seeing this pushback in Argentina, right? Where you have Macri's communication minister who's already come out and said he wants to do away with the 6-year-old media law. In Venezuela, they're already talking about cutting services and laws and pushing back on the ANTV, the National Assembly TV. So it's kind of this, that you can already see this rollback of kind of the progressive gains in a lot of ways in these countries that have been implemented over the last 10 or 15 years.
Yes, but I think this would provoke perhaps reactions much more rapidly than they think. What I fear is the consequences for the integration of Latin America. For ALBA, well, ALBA for the moment, yes, depends very much from Venezuela, of course. And of course they will fight against ALBA because ALBA was the only place where a real post-capitalist philosophy was at stake. And so the integration of Latin America, not on the basis of competitivity, but on the basis of solidarity, of complementarity, etc. That will be, of course, one of the first target, I think, that they will fight against.
Let's talk about that for a second. Obviously, Alba, CELAC, UNASUR, it's created a platform for kind of a unified Latin American voice in international meetings and commissions. We just saw it at COP21, where kind of Latin American countries, progressive countries, were able to stand together for what they wanted in the accords and stuff. Let's talk a little bit about that. How exactly has that been portrayed, or has that been represented in these different conferences? For instance, at COP21.
For instance,
yes.
No, I think that was a great deal of vision of Hugo Chavez. No, how to promote different organisms of integration of Latin America. Perhaps there are too many, so it's difficult to manage. But anyway, this is really a fundamental issue. But I think, of course, that the right has understood that this is an issue which can be counter-attacked. For example, by the Pacific Agreement of Latin American countries, Asia and North America, which is a new way of trying to make a rebirth for ALCA. Mm-hmm. So they will probably now play on that. Means that to try to weaken the existing integration, Latin American integration, and to go back to the other system, which is integration with the United States. And this is, of course, a long story since the years 1824 and 25, when the Conference of Panama with Bolivar for one part and with Monroe for the other part. So it is a old story. And that will go on, I think, the fight between the two aspects. And the problem of the weakening of the new institutions is very fundamental, because I had just an hour ago a meeting with someone of UNASUR, and they told me we are facing very grave problem. Brazil just told us that they would not pay, they are unable to pay their quota for 2015 and 2016. Venezuela has not paid since last year. So we don't know what will happen with us, what we will be able to do. No? So not to speak about the rightist countries, the neoliberal countries like Colombia or Peru, etc., which are absolutely not interested in backing those institutions. So there, I think there will be some consequences, and we have to try to fight against.
For a public that doesn't really understand the idea or the concept of regional integration, why is this so important? Why has this been so key?
It is very important because each individual country is unable to fight against the power of the multinationals and of the international capitalist system. It is only when you come together that you will be able to impose, for example, to multinationals, some kind of rules for mining or for petroleum or for the defense of Amazonia, etc. It is only together. So it is only constructing another pole. I don't say anti-capitalist because for the moment it is not yet ready. But we hope to build a socialist type of orientation of the international economy. But for the moment, within the unilateral power of the economic system, of the world economic system, the only way is integration. And that is one aspect. Oh, there are many other aspects from the cultural point of view, etc. But that is for me the most important one in order to give strength to a group of countries which can afford to impose rules to international capitalist world.
Can you talk about the recent Paris climate talks? This
Yes.
agreement that came out of this, and also the role that the Latin American governments played in trying to push this in a more progressive direction, a direction more focused on kind of the local, the global south, the small countries.
Yes, of course, there has been some very positive actions from that point of view. For example, the proposal of Ecuador to have an international tribunal, which was not, of course, not accepted. There has been, yes, I have participated in 2010 to the World Forum on Nature in Cochabamba, in Brazil, and where all this was discussed. However, I have a problem. The problem is the distance between the discourse of the Latin American countries, also the progressive one, and their practices. In this field of protecting Mother Earth, and of giving more attention to this problem. Because at the same time that the discourse is very clear, at the same time they continue to promote OGM, organic transformation.
GMOs, genetically modified
GMOs
organisms.
in English,
Yeah.
yes. They continue to promote ethanol, they continue to promote monoculture, etc. All kinds of activities which are destroying nature and the Mother Earth. So there is a distance between the discourse and the practices. But anyway, it is good that they have had that action, especially Ecuador, in name of CELAC in Paris. However, what is the agreement of Paris? The agreement in Paris is not the defense of Mother Earth as the origin of all life, physical, cultural, spiritual. But it is the defense of Mother Earth, of Earth, as a natural resource. Because they began to see that the changing, the climate change began to affect the profit of capital and the accumulation of capital. So it was not more an external thing. They had to take it seriously. And there you came, of course, to a fight between different parts of capitalism. The one who saw that it was good to have this climate change because they will be able to gain more. They have fabricated new energies, etc. And the others, petroleum, the producers of petroleum like Saudi Arabia and also Venezuela, of course, trying to put the brakes on the decision. And for me, the fundamental weakness of the Paris Agreement is that it remains in the philosophy of capitalism. It means that how to bring changes without changing, how to bring changes which are market friendly. And that is ruining the whole philosophy. No, I don't say that it was possible to do otherwise than what they have done. And I see some positive aspect, especially the fact that now the world is conscious of the situation. And that is a great achievement. But we must be very clear that the proposal that they have made will not solve the problem.
Right, because many of them, they're not even concrete mandates. It's saying, oh, there's a recommendation, you should do this, or we would like you if you do this.
It's not binding.
Right, exactly.
Not binding, legally binding.
I want to close out on social movements and how they fit within all of this. Obviously, the grassroots social movements, you spent time with the World Social Forum, that's been extremely important for you. Where do they stand within this right-wing backlash? And what in your opinion is kind of the next move for them? What needs to happen next?
Well, I think, of course, that social movements have a very important role to play. Like they played a very positive role for the political changes in Latin America. because practically all, perhaps a little different in Venezuela, but practically in all the other countries, it was the result of the action of the social movements. But since 10 years or 15 years, the social movements have lost quite a bit of their dynamism and their strength. We have to try to analyze why, no? But it is a fact. And some of the progressive governments have not played a very positive role to encourage social movement to continue and to express themselves. And even they have begun to create some alternative movements in order to have a backing of social movements. No? So that is not a very positive situation. But I think that they will have to come to a new way of retaking problems in a middle or long range, when the politics is at a short range. And there we hope that something will happen in the years to come.
Francois, thank you so much for joining me. I'm from Quito.
Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching from Quito today. I'm Michael Fox. Our guest has been Francois Huto.